What's up, everybody? Tam back with another Flesh and Blood video. Today, we're going to do something a little different for the channel. We're going to do a tier list. Monarch just released for the Flesh and Blood trading card game, and I want to give my opinions and thoughts on where I think the Blitz format's going to be with the introduction of these 4 new characters, as well as the entire set of Monarch boosting or raising all of the other classes. Now, before we jump into it, I will say that tier lists are just opinion videos. Obviously, they're not gospel, they're not truth, they're how I feel, and I have not experimented with all of the characters yet. I have not experimented with all of the cards yet, and so these are just my initial opinions, my initial thoughts, and I'm excited to see how they grow and change depending on the matches that I play and the game that I experience. If you agree with my opinions, please let me know in the comments down below. More importantly, if you disagree with my opinions, let me know in the comments down below. I love learning, and I love looking at new, interesting ways. Maybe there's a character or a class that I put too low or too high, and you educate me and let me know where I have gone wrong in my thinking. So with that, a bit of my pre-release event yesterday at time of recording. I played in the pre-release. I played as Prism. I got a pretty okay pool. Ended up Swiss champing my 32 person event. Very, very cool. Made it all the way to the finals where I lost. So second place, 32-man pre-release feels good, and I gotta say Prism is way better than I initially thought, or maybe she's not. We'll see on the tier list. Let's without any further ado, let's just jump into the list. All right, so we have our tier list here. I have tossed one of all of the young heroes out, including our 4 new heroes down here, and we're just gonna get into it, just to some easy decision making. So starting off with our very first hero, Dash. I think Dash is a totally fine character. I think she's really, really cool in Blitz. I think she's got some really simple, straightforward, aggressive lines, and for that reason, I think we're just gonna toss her up in C. I think she's so middle of the road that I think she's fine. Easily upon re-looking at the list, we can easily pop her up to B, maybe, but I don't see her dipping below C at all. With the 2 ways that you can play her in Blitz, the more consistent way being the boost mechanic of just going crazy. I mean, 20 damage is not very hard to do when all of your attacks have go again, and they're all fairly cheap to play. Or you have the more defensive version from Constructed that you can kind of tailor down into this 40 card deck and try and make that work. It's fun. I think Dash is totally fine at C. We'll see where she moves. So Azalea. So I was really hopeful when Monarch came out that Azalea was going to be a little bit bigger, a little bit crazier. She did get that new action that wants to set an attack on top. It's not even an action, it's an instant, right? Memorial Ground. With Memorial Ground, I think she's actually really, really solid. Taking one of her arrows and just tossing it up on top very quickly and then giving it dominate, I think it's going to be insane. So for that reason, I'm going to keep her in D because I'm excited to see where Memorial Ground brings her. But besides that, I don't really see her having gained a lot of tools and usefulness. And I think there's just a little bit of an issue with Azalea still. Viserai, the first Runeblade hero. This character is also very good. I think he only got better from the Runeblade stuff. We'll get to Chain whenever we get there, obviously. But I think Viserai is, once again, another one of these mid-tier characters. I think he's totally fine inside of Blitz. Once again, 20 damage is super easy, and Viserai can easily just crank it up to like 20 arcane damage. And so there's plenty of turns where you are discarding your whole hand, and then you're still taking arcane over, not to mention the attack that we're swinging for. I think in the right hands, Viserai has a lot of really good potential. The Runeblade cards that he got from this set are not spectacular, right? Because the Shadow Runeblade got a ton of stuff. Like, all of his classic Runeblade things are just kind of just a deal of arcane damage. But the Santra Arcanex, excuse me, Sonata Arcanex, whatever. This card's insane in Viserai. Holy cow, this card's nuts. To the point where if that card actually does like some real work, we could easily slide up to B. You know, I'm actually gonna leave it in B because I want to see where the Arcanex goes. Kano. Kano's such an easy B choice for me. It's so simple because 20 damage is so easy to just pump out inside of a Kano deck if you get lucky. But with that said, 15 even easier for every single class to do. I think like Azalea versus Kano is actually like a pretty okay matchup for Azalea because, I mean, you shoot 2 dominated arrows, and then Kano just dies. Wizard is one of those classes that I constantly want to see myself trying to play, but I'm just so, it's just so all-out aggressive without the aggressive consistency of dash. Next, we've got KO. I think KO's insane. I think KO's absolutely a monster. I think KO was really good before this Monarch stuff, and then the basic brute stuff that came out, pulping. I think pulping, red pulping with Kano is going to be a beating, right? It's a 12 damage move that has dominate. Anytime that you can give a brute character the dominate keyword, it's going to be insane. Pulping plus tear limb from limb. Insane. Actually crazy how good this character is going to be. With that said, sometimes KO's in D tier. It really all depends on the roll of that dice and if you've got those gambler's gloves. But if you got the gloves, if you got the full equipment and everything, I think he's very easily an A tier character. Ira. So Ira didn't really get anything, but she didn't really lose anything either. I'm not positive what generics Ira got. I'll take a quick look. Yeah, trying to think of what generics Ira got. I mean, we have like Majestics of Exclude Confidence, Nourishing Emptiness, Rouse the Ancients that maybe she might want to play. Seek Horizons, what do you do? Put on top of your deck? No, we don't care about that. Yeah, I'm not positive that there's a ton that we would want to play over our classic Ira deck. But with that said, I mean, +1 consistently on that second attack, plus with the Kadachis, I think Ira is totally solid. I think she's a fine character. My personal opinion, and this is going to be the hot take, I don't think Ira's that good. I think she's kind of fairly easy to play around. I think that Ira is fine. I think on my personal tier list, I'm going to put her as the best B character, right? I think she can be played around fairly easily. But she's fine. She's fine. I know a lot of you are going to put her up in A just because she has a lot of win results, and maybe I'm just fighting the wrong Iras, right? Maybe that's the issue. But my personal experience, I think she's the best B character there is. Benji. I think Benji's a solid C. Definitely, probably going to be the bottom of C just because of how limited his card pool is. I think it's really good card pool selection. But there's something going on with Benji that I think is really special, and I think Benji will be a new player killer, right? I think Benji is going to be really good at just mollywopping people who are very fresh to the game. But once you kind of figure out how the game works, and when things trigger and when things don't trigger, I think Benji is not going to be that great. Let me check some generic stuff and see if Benji got any crazy low damage moves. Oh yeah, stubby hammers. Okay, we're actually gonna pop Benji up to B. I think a solid stubby hammers play of giving all of his 1 damage moves 2 damage is going to be very good. And so if you've got like a really aggressive Benji list, we've got card that lets us use our Kadachis or our piercing needle, and then we have a bunch of 1 damage moves. Stubby needles dumping up to 2. You've just, you know, added a bunch of 2 damage moves, which is perfect for Benji. I mean, you get 10 2 damage moves in the game as Benji, and you win, right? You just win the game. Moving on to Kasai. Kasai is the worst character, I think, in the set. We were all really hopeful that she would have a new cash in. There would be some silver tokens. There would be some gold tokens. We were hoping more of that. I guess we'll have to wait for the next set, Kingdom, for that to happen. But Kasai is... honestly, just not that great. I am excited. I think she's really cool. I think a lot of her tricks are good in the other warrior cards or other warrior decks, but Kasai herself is something to be lacking. Yeah, something's not quite there. I don't even know how to pronounce this, but she's an F. I think she's the only F character that there is. I do think that she just doesn't quite have enough. If you were to play her, first off, nobody plays her because nobody's willing to take that much of a money card and lay it on the table. It's always locked in somebody's safe of like, hey, I'm gonna buy a house with this later. But I've never seen this character perform. I know that I've been in some Discord chats and people are like, oh, she's really neat, but I think that's about as far as it ever goes. I don't think she'll ever do anything at a competitive level until we get something. Until we get another shapeshifter or something along that talent gets explored a little bit more. I just don't see her doing anything. She's a really cool card if you've got one. Wow, good, congratulations. That's really cool. But nah, she's not doing anything inside the game. You never have to worry about her. Data Doll. So Data Doll is, man, I can't decide if she's high D or the worst C. I've done almost no research with Data Doll, but like when I go to sleep and I dream at night and I dream of these electric sheep, Data Doll is just like always in the top of my brain. Like, man, there's so many cool things that I could do. But like everything Data Doll whenever Datadog gets the free equipment, it makes up for that hand size everywhere except for blocking, right? Datadog versus Reinhardt, who we'll get to, just loses, right? She's got minus what he's already intimidated a card out of her hand. For that reason, man, I think she actually might be down here, but I think if you get really lucky with Datadog, or calculated if you want to be there, if you get really intense nut draws with Datadog, I think she can actually just blow people out, not having to pay for those equipment. Kind of crazy, and she's getting all those boost go agains, like. It's not a real cost. So next we've got Cavdine, the trader of scans. I actually have to read this guy. Once per turn, pay 3 of a hero has more. I think this guy's really cool. I think he's a solid C. It's neat. It's really neat, but copper tokens are a terrible cost. Pay 3 to guarantee hit for 1 can easily close out games. There was one time in this pre-release that happened yesterday that on turn 3 I got put to 1 health and then I decked my opponent out, which was very tough and very hard. What I'm saying is that 1 life can be very easy to close out. I think Cavdine is interesting. He's neat. Him only being able to play with the generic cards, it kind of puts him in the same boat as the shapeshifter, but he actually has a relevant ability that he gets to use over and over again. So I think Cavdine is actually like a cool character. Maybe I'm putting up too high. Maybe he could easily be like a high D around above Azalea, but yeah, I think I'll actually put him in D, just because the limitation of the card pool. So now we get to the meat and potatoes of it, the new characters. I think Prism is very strong. I think Prism, I've seen over and over and over again people winning these pre-releases with Prism. With that said, she's got some crazy hard matchups that I thought going into the pre-release that were going to be nigh impossible for her to win. I thought Shadow Brute was going to be insane, insanely easy to lose that game, right? You're just gonna be blocking 6s all day, right? Literally versus the only Shadow Brute that I played, I just didn't play a Phantasm. I used them all to block, and I swung with my Spectral Shields, and Shadow Brute was not able to keep the consistency of their hand up enough in order to play out the big swingy attacks, so I just kept blocking, and then had at least 1 and swung for 4, and eventually the Blood Deck got him. But man, that is a very different story from Constructed. Every attack in Shadow Brute and Brute's deck is going to be a 6. They all are. There's no chance that they're not playing a 6. And so with Prism existing, her card pool is going to be better, but their card pool is going to be worse. I think versus KO versus Levia versus Reinhardt, it might just be an auto loss unless you've got some real tech against it. And so I think she's an A character until she fights one of those 3 characters, and then she just drops down to C, and it's like, my game plan is so rough. But I think everything that's happening with all the auras, it's very cool. Boltyn. I think Boltyn might be as good as Ira, if not better. And for that, I'm going to put him in B, maybe even the best B. When Boltyn gets a hot turn, when he decides that he's got enough gas to go for it, he will dunk 10 damage guaranteed, with whether you interact with him or not. It just doesn't matter. And so I think Boltyn is one of those characters. Once again, I only faced 2 of them yesterday, but anytime that I tried to interact with his board, it felt a lot like Dorinthia, which was really cool, and I did not expect from Boltyn. With that said, the less you are able to interact with Boltyn and survive, the better. But once he gets some tricks to be able to pump his stuff, and he can start swinging a ton of times with those axes, or I think even better, his sword, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. And so people need to make sure that they know how to play against this character. Levia. I think in Blitz, I think she's going to be not as good as Constructed. So since this is a Blitz tier list, I'm going to put her up here, and I think that officially moves Benji down here, because I want to try and keep as even numbers as possible. I think Levia is better than Viserai for sure. Maybe not as good as Ira. My big thing about Levia is it's really cool to see a control Brute. Shadow Brute, I believe, in my opinion, wants to play the late game so that we can just start mollywhopping these big, huge moves. A little poke, but not these big, huge strings like Reinhardt wants to come out the gate as savage as possible. Very cool. I think Levia is allowed to play a bit more of a control game which I love. I think that's a very, very cool thing to have two classes with the same aggressive, ruthless mentality, but one is a more aggressive and one's more control. I think it's really neat. Chain, I think, is also very good. I am nervous about Chain losing a lot of resources in Blitz, but at the same time, he gets to draw free cards. Inside of the pre-release yesterday, he was banishing a lot of non-blood deck cards, but whenever you've got everything, I think this extra hand is going to be nuts. If he's not A, it is going to be a high B. Man, I think all these characters are really, really good. Yeah, I think Chain is somewhere in the middle between A and B. I think there's something there. And we're gonna come back at the very end and review all this. Reinhardt, I think, is A. I think Reinhardt did not lose anything. He got some cool things. I mean, you get hit with some Blood Rush bellows. You get hit with the bellows and you just die, right? Like, that's not going to change from the new set. I'm not even sure that, like, I mean, you're just gonna dome all of Prism's spectral shields, and there's just nothing she can do about it. Oh, you know what? I actually want to go back to these shadow characters, right? I think the big thing about these shadow characters is I'm excited to see what inside of Blitz their demon tokens are actually going to do. I think I'm most excited about these shadow characters in Blitz because of the tokens. I've done no research on it myself. I've not put any lists together, but I think having the consistency of 40 cards, being able to find that thing, if we can banish our stuff quick enough and then jam them out, I think it might be the thing that lets those characters swing bigger games inside of Blitz. Not to mention, I haven't even talked about the fact, now that I've got all 4 of these new characters on here, with the decks coming out, they've got these new mentors, which is going to completely and totally change the name of the game, especially with the Brute. I think Reinhardt with that mentor is going to be kind of schnasty. Yeah, really, really excited for that. Up next, we've got Bravo. I think Bravo's just as solid as ever. We're going to put him here, which drops Kano down. I think Bravo's like one of these really crazy decks where as soon as Bravo gets ahead, you actually just can't beat the deck. And so as long as you can play smart and figure out when you're allowed to not block his moves and when you're allowed to block his moves, you will be able to beat that character. In a Blitz event, in Constructed, wow, way stronger. But in Blitz, as long as you have played enough games, I think he feels a lot like Benji, where he's going to be a new player killer, where they're going to dump their hand to something, and then Bravo's going to be like, oh, I will swing my 10+ damage move every turn, and you're going to give me your hand every single turn. I'll play 1 card, you'll lose 3, and eventually I'll just beat you there. We've got Katsu. Katsu is surprisingly scary. I actually believe that. I think Katsu is very slept on, arguably the most slept on character in the game. I believe that Katsu is strong. I think he's actually better than Benji, honestly. Honestly, I think he's better than Benji. I still think he gets nuked by Kano, which I think Kano being in C now is like really, really smart. Yeah, I think if you get caught sleeping with the right Katsu deck, I think you just get melted. And that's, I mean, that is how Katsu should be, right? Is he hits you, and then he replaces the one piece for the piece that replaces 1 card for a piece that he needs, and then he just mollywops you for it. Not as consistently good as the higher tiered stuff like Ahri and Reinhardt, but still good, still passable, still playable. And then lastly, we've got my favorite character, just happened to be last on the list, Dorinthia. I still think Dorinthia is insane. I want to put her here, obviously, because she's my favorite, but I don't think that's actually true. I do believe that Reinhardt is still the best Blitz hero, and I think it might be here. I think this might be where my list ends up. Yeah, I think Dorinthia's combat tricks are still insane. I still think Route is an insane card that just closes out games way more often when it should. In order to fight Dorinthia, you have to be very calculated, and cards like Route or Overpower say that we kind of get to fudge our math. We mess up their numbers a bit. And so with that, I think that Dorinthia is still a very, very strong contender, even though, in my personal opinion, I think she got 0 cards out of Monarch. I think that there are no good cards to play under Dorinthia Some people have said to play the axes with the card that says +2 and dominate on them, which I think is fine. I think 3 axe swings is really good, but I would much rather use other utility cards in order to get more out of Dorinthia. But that's me personally. I would love to know you guys' opinions on Axe Dorinthia, just because of how much I'm passionate about the character. So now we have finished the initial look at the tier list. I do want to take a quick recap and look at my layers, because I kind of moved things around as we were talking about other characters and moving stuff. And so my final pass through of the tier list is a good first impression. I think Rhinar, Dorinthia, KO, Prism, Chain. I'm not in love with Chain being here. Maybe it actually should be Ira up here. And maybe Ira's better than Chain? I don't know. I think these could be intermixed, right? Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, I think this is fine for my B tiers. Like these are the killers, right? These are the staples, the tent poles of the game. These ones are really strong. They are gonna for sure make it into tops all the time. Maybe I'm down for all of these except for maybe Viserai. I think Viserai with that new card is the only reason that I want to leave him at the bottom of B, because I think that new card is going to be something strong. I think it's going to be very, very good. I think Bolton is still super, super good. Maybe I put Chain over Bolton, but I think these are very, very comparable. Because he also gets to play that new card. Yeah, I dig this line. I dig this line. I think Kano being in C tier is exactly where he needs to be. I think he either he kills you for free, or you kind of get away with murder for him. So I think he's exactly where he needs to be. Same thing with these other characters. All of these down here. If I felt passionate enough to put her down here, I would. But I think this is a fine order for things. Yeah, and so this is my final list. What do you guys think about the tier list? Obviously, tier lists are just opinions. I told you in the inside of the video that there are a ton of these matchups that I have not faced, and I have not made all of the new characters. So this is just initial thoughts, my gut feelings, and I'm excited for them to change and evolve as I learn and I play the game more. Let me know down in the comments down below. Once again, I'm leaving this tier maker link in the description of the video. Shoot your own tier lists and put them out on the Facebook groups and the Discords and all of that jazz. The more that we can be vocal and have our opinions tossed out, the more conversation and discourse that we can have, the more we all grow. Remember, high tides raise all ships. So with that said, thank you much for watching the video. I greatly appreciate it. If you like the content, don't forget like, share, subscribe. I am also over on Twitch, twitch.tv/TamCardwell. Come and drop me a follow. Come see all the cool card game content that I make out over there. So with that said, thank you much for watching, and I wish you well.